Hello, thank you for joining me today. Together we will paint a Royal Dressen flower bouquet with pink and violet tulips on an egg. My name is Birgit Porter and I have been painting porcelain professionally for 18 years. My career started when I was accepted to a 3-year intensive training program at the Royal Porcelain Manufactory in Germany. After the training, I worked for the company 6 years. During my 9 years at the manufactory, I painted on porcelain 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Since then, I have been working as a freelance painter and teacher. Now let's start. I will show you the work area. This is my malpult. That is a wooden box which helps me to rest my hand on and paint very still. I am using that to paint very large objects like a big plate. You can slide it underneath and then you can paint in the middle of the plate without shaking. And you can paint big vases and objects like an egg. I am storing my paints in a card box with shelves so that they are dust free. There are even sometimes more paints than one on one palette. I am doing the one fire technique with turpentine and fat oil. I use pure gum spirits turpentine. You can also use turpentine oil. And I'm mixing the powder paint with fat oil and turpentine. Fat oil has that consistency, but when it is thinner, it works as well. And my brushes, I'm painting with a painting brush and with a thin lining brush to paint the flowers and the leaves. Let me show you how I am mixing the paint, because I will only show it once and then we will only have a close-up on the brush strokes. I am taking the powder paint, one part of dry powder paint, a little bit less than one part of fat oil. If you put too much fat oil in it, you won't get any nice contrasts anymore. Yeah, less variations, so be careful not to put too much fat oil in it. It has a tendency to get fatter and fatter and gluier later on anyways. And when this fat oil has made the powder paint sticky like that, you will have to put some turpentine, some drops of turpentine to make it pliable, like that. And you will want to mix it very carefully until all the particles got very nicely dissolved. am using a plexiglass spatula because when I am mixing the paint like that, no metal chips will flake off, and this plexiglass spatula will keep the bright colors like the yellows and the light colors clean. If you use metal, metal flakes would chip off and oxidize, which will make the paint look dirty. So I don't use a metal spatula. Okay, so now I've shown you how I mix the paint. It has to have this consistency, and after every 5 minutes you have to put some more drops of turpentine into it and use a spatula and make it soft again. Mix it again, otherwise the paint gets too sticky. Okay, we will have a little break now, and when we come back you can have a very close look over my shoulders how to do. Hi, welcome back. Now you can see the egg from the same angle that I see it too. So take a close look and watch painting. So you load your brush with paint, and then you take a little bit paint out of it again, that you don't have too much paint in it, and then you do your strokes. You start with the darkest ones, the darkest petals, and always keep in mind that the petals go into the center of the blossoms, the petals. When the petals are so small, you only draw with the tip of the brush. You always want to make sure that there's enough contrast in the flower bouquet, so where a flower is on top of other flowers or other green flowers, you want to have a light area hitting a dark area, so that you have a good perspective there. So here, where there is something dark in the background, you have to make sure that the flower on top is lighter, and where the flower hits a white background, the petal can be darker. For the lighter petals, you just wipe out some paint again. Like that. And here's a little part. Okay, that's enough for the red in that bouquet. Now I'm using, this was Meissen red. Now I'm going to my next color, which is the pink. To clean my spatula, clean my brush. Okay, and now I have to soften my pink with turpentine. You don't need to add fat oil anymore because the paint was mixed already several days beforehand. Only if you mix fresh powder paint, then you mix it with fat oil and turpentine. Okay, you load your brush with pink, and then you take some more to the way again, like that. And now you start with the darkest area of the petals of the flower. And it always works best if you outline the petal like that, and then make the strokes using the paint which you have in these outlines, and then you press the brush down and lift up so that you get a nice movement of the leaf from a darker to a lighter to a darker again. Yeah. It's the second leaf, like that, you outline again. And then you do the strokes out of these outlines. So here's a very dark area. Here's the darkest area of the tulip. And here I do a very light area. You have to hold the egg that is most convenient for you. Sometimes you have to hold it upside down in order to make the brush strokes flow nicely. Now the tulip gets lighter and lighter. And this is a wash of paint, very much turpentine, and I always take some paint off the brush to have it very light. We even want to keep a little white line left there. Then you can accentuate on top of the just painted some teeny tiny veins to make it look more interesting. So here's the dark side of the petal, so you want to have a very, very light one in the back here only, like that. So you can go on top of it and do here and there as well some teeny tiny veins, accentuating some more for more interest. More lifelike. using the tip of the brush, which is sharp as a wipe out tool, and can this way remove something where I want it. For example, I removed something here where I thought it was too big of a dark area, so that needs a little bit more light. Okay, so that is it for the color pink. Let me go to the next paint, which I have already softened. Oh, it's not the right one. I'm using a light pink, not a light pink, a light violet, and afterwards I'm using a darker violet. So this is a lighter violet. Clean my brush. There's a little asta I'm painting here in the background. I've sketched that with graphite pencil onto the egg. Now I'm going to the next color, which is the violet, the darker violet. I'm mixing the violet now only with turpentine. Now I have mixed my darker violet, and I've done that only with turpentine because it was already pre-mixed with fat oil and turpentine. So I only soften it with turpentine to make it fresh again and pliable. The light violet I painted and accentuated with this dark violet color, and now I am painting the dark violet tulip. I outlined first, and out of these outlines I do the strokes towards the center of the flower. I always like to start with the darkest petal in the flower. First I do the outlines, and then I color out of the outline the paint in with brush strokes. Every brush strokes one next to the other. That is the third dark petal from the tulip. Now do the outlines first, and out of the outlines you stroke the paint away with a light pressure on the brush stroke. First dark, then you press down, then it gets lighter, and then dark again. That makes for a nice curve in the leaf, a bent petal. So this is the leaf in the front, which will be lighter. And this side of the petal where the light hits the petal will be lighter than the other side. One side is darker, the other side is lighter. So you add some more dark strokes to it. So that you don't have only one flat shape, but have the petal look bent. For those additional strokes, the paint has to be rather dry in the brush, so don't use too much turpentine to do that. Make sure you always have a nice contrast between light and dark. Now with a lot of turpentine and only little paint, you do the very light petal. And you always want to hold the porcelain so that it is most easy for you to do the strokes. So here I hold the egg upside down to do the strokes away from me. This is a very light petal in the background, so you also outline again, and with more turpentine and less paint in your brush, do the strokes again. Here I wipe away which was too dark. So you really don't want to have your petals look all the same. So you add some more interest to it and add here and there some little strokes. And that's about it for the violet. The next color will be blue. So I can put away the violet in the little cupboard that it is dust free. These are frosted glass palettes, so that you can grind your powder paint better with a spatula while you are mixing your paints. In order that this blue is not too bright or too squeaky bright, I mixed a little bit of violet in it to make it more subtle. So I clean my brush and load the brush with paint, take some paint off again, and now I'm painting teeny tiny forget-me-nots. They only seem to be forget-me-nots because they here have much more petals than in nature. And you can use some blue and do carefully a wash of blue on top of the violet, and not covering everything but only enhancing the color, that it does not look only too monotone violet, monochrome. One little blossom there in the front, and that's about it for the blue. The next color will be a dark brownish red. But I will clean my spatula, and again, because there is already, I have to mix some more paint, so I use a bit powder paint, I only mix up as much powder paint as I need, and not too much, so that I don't keep so much on my palette, and that it does not get dusty over the while. So I add fat oil, a little bit less fat oil than powder paint, and mix both, grind thoroughly. And I add some couple of drops of turpentine, gum spirits turpentine, and mix everything together. Okay. So now the paint is soft enough to paint another flower there. So you outline, and then you fill in the paint towards the center of the blossom. And make sure to have always one side of the flower a little bit lighter than the other, and the petals also. Those who point towards you, they are bigger and lighter, so that you get the perspective. The next paint I use is a yellow. So I use yellow powder paint again. No, it's a brown. It's for the yellow, the shadow, which will be painted underneath the yellow. It's a beige color. So I mix the powder with fat oil and turpentine. This is fat oil. I'm using now the the brush handle, the cut, sharpened tip of the brush handle on the end of the brush to scratch out the room for the pollen, the inside of the flowers, to make room for the beige. That is my wipe-off tool, built in the brush. Make sure that you don't paint sprays and things in the far back, that you don't paint them too dark. So you only want to have them give a hint of something in the background. Make sure that you don't paint too much of the beige and too dark, because you will cover everything with a yellow color as well. While we are going to the next color, which will be the gray, we will let the beige dry first before we put the yellow on top of it. So we use turpentine to get the pre-mixed gray soft again. Now I'm using a violet of iron tone, which is like a red grape or violet of iron, and I use this paint to do a monochrome outline for the green leaves. All the shaded areas of the green leaves will be painted with this violet of iron tone. Everything will be covered later on with either a blue-green or a yellow-green. paint the leaves not with the outlines with the leaf, not with one continually line, but cut the line down in teeny tiny strokes. Then the leaf looks more interesting. And the outside outline of the leaves can be much lighter than the inside um, um, the inside vein. The middle of the big flat boring tulip leaf you can shade with lots of teeny tiny strokes to make it look bent. always make sure not to use too much straight lines. There are rarely straight lines in nature. You see the C and S curves, which are used to make harmony in a bouquet. So the stems, you can follow the line of how the tulip is connected in the bouquet, and then you see where you have to put the stems, how the stems stick out of the bouquet. There's always one longer one or two smaller ones and another teeny tiny one. So you never want to make them too symmetrically. Always use asymmetric lines and curves. Some thicker, some thinner, some lighter and some darker. Always these C and S shapes visible. So from time to time the turpentine evaporates and you have to mix some more turpentine oil into the paint to make it fresh again. Otherwise the paint gets very hard and sticky and you can't get long thin lines anymore. So always make sure to mix your paints again, soften again. Now the green shadow undercoat is just about done. Here and there I add some more darks to it, but I don't want to get too dark because then it looks too heavy. And now I will add yellow in the areas from the green leaf where light hits the green leaf. I need some powder paint again, and I use fat oil. I mix a little bit less than the same amount of fat oil to it, and use turpentine to make everything soft. Now I grind it thoroughly, and then the paint is ready to paint. So you cover the beige and you go in the same directions with a brush stroke, the yellow brush strokes in the same direction how you did your mm, gray or beige brush strokes underneath as well. Here you cover all the white areas of the green leaves. That makes the leaf later on look very nice and lively. now I have let the yellow dry a little bit, about half an hour, and now I'm using the yellow green to paint on top of the yellow. It is tricky to paint on a paint which has not been fired. The smaller the area, the easier. If you don't dare to do that, then you can have the piece fired first, or wait until the next day to let the paint dry more to cover the green on. I am painting here very carefully on top of the yellow, and I only use one stroke and set it next to the other so that the paint won't get smeared. The reason why I put the brown outlines down first and not the other way around is that way the green will cover the brown and the green leaves won't look so brownish. You could put the green down first and then afterwards outline with a darker tone the green and shadow, but then it might look too brownish. There will be 2% of yellow green used in one bouquet, and there will be 2/3 of yellow green used in that bouquet and 1/3 of blue green, so that the overall bouquet doesn't look too bluish, too cold. So some yellow can peek through the green. You don't need to cover everything, but make sure to cover the brown. This is so much for the yellow green. Now I am mixing the blue green. The blue-green is used mainly in the areas where there is the shadow. Now we are done with the green, and what I'm doing now is I am using black, a brown black, and I will paint on the back side of the egg. I will paint a butterfly. I use powder paint, black powder paint, and fat oil again. Mix both with a spatula. And now I'm using a gold facilitator, which is nitrobenzo, or you also can use a pen oil to get very fine lines, which will be painted with a pen point. I have to put my gold facilitator away again, and I'll get some more fat oil. Because when the paint is too dry, that means not enough fat in it, it will tear and you don't get enough, you don't get long enough lines in it. They tear. The paint has to be just right, not too dry and not too fat. So I try first on another egg here, if the paint is correct. What I first do here with a brush is to draw teeny tiny black dots on top of that one flower as the pollen. Now I changed my mind. I don't want to write there hand painted. I just write my name there. That's all. When you paint a butterfly, you start with a head, and then you paint the abdomen, and on the head you paint two eyes, and then you paint the wings, both wings the same size, and underneath the upper wings you paint the lower wings, and then you paint the antenna. And now you can paint a pattern, which you later on color in with paints of your choice. The main thing is you don't color them in too dark. The body of the butterfly you will paint with the beige paint. It's best to let your black paint for the butterflies dry a little bit before you color in the paint. To color the butterfly, I often use yellow and a light violet or gray or light pink. Thank you for watching me paint the flowers and the butterflies. I will now have a break in which I will fire the egg, and when I come back you will see how the egg looks fired. Now this is the fired egg. I have fired it at cone 014. That makes the pink look very brilliant and bright. All the colors have changed. Now I will use the rest of the tape which is left to just show you the egg. Thank you so much for watching me over the shoulder, and I wish you a happy painting. Bye bye.